Hi everyone, it's Chris. Welcome to my parlour. And today I'm here with my book read for October. So I'm going to share what I read in October. I've read 4 books in October. I'm going to show you one here because I had to take it back to the library. But it's James Patterson's Bookshots, Taking the Titanic by Scott Slavin. A Heist to Remember. It was quite enjoyable. I read it in one day. That's the way the bookshots are designed for, just to read it in one day. There wasn't any gore or anything else like that in it. There was some violence, but nothing like James Patterson's books usually contain. So it wasn't nasty or anything else like that. It was quite an okay story. It's about a couple who are cons, who pretend to be newlyweds and board the Titanic in first class, trying to fleece all of the first class passengers. Unbeknownst to the reader, 3/4 of the way through, there's another plan to do something else on the Titanic. Of course, the Titanic sinks, as it's supposed to do anyway. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't so much enjoy the characters so much. I didn't believe the characters, to be honest, and especially being 1912, it sort of didn't. They didn't suit the era that they were in. So, but otherwise, yeah, that was okay. I read it, and I will look out for it, but I'm in no hurry to find it. But the library has it anyway, so I can always borrow it if I so desire. Okay. Whew. I took a chance on this one. I really took a chance on this one. Tess Gerritsen, Playing with Fire, but I like the title, A Haunting New Thriller. I just thought that was really interesting. No autopsies. No violence with mad murderers or anything else like that, which is quite unusual for Tess Gerritsen, but I do have some of her books that don't have that violence in it, but I do have some books that have quite a bit of gore in it. So she's a bit of a toss-up about which books are going to provide what kind of story, you know what I mean? But this one was quite good. Playing with Fire. What if your child wanted you dead? And that's what got me to wanting to read it. It was only a couple of dollars at the bookshop, so I found it. So what if your child wanted you dead? Julia doesn't understand why her daughter has so violently turned against her, and she thinks she knows what's causing it. She is terrified for Lily and for herself, but what scares her more is that no one believes her. So this is Julia. Julia's a violinist in an orchestra. She's a second violinist, and she goes off to Rome on a tour, which was quite successful. And while she was in Rome, she came across this little antique shop, and she found this piece of music. She fell in love with this piece of music and just had to have it. So she went home and played the music, and all these sort of strange things started happening between her and her daughter, and she blames the music for it. Then we find out a bit about the music. So this story alternates between the present time and the past. It might be a bit of a trigger for some people because it covers mental illness, and it also covers the treatment of Jews in Italy during World War II. So you might find it a bit of a trigger for some. But otherwise, it was a good story. Between the two characters, I liked them both, and the present and the past characters. So you might like to read this one. It was really quite good. A bit sceptical about what happened between Julia and her daughter. It was a bit violent, actually, in some respects. So, but not nasty violence for the sake of violence. It was just, I don't know why they chose that particular form of violence, but because it's linked to mental illness, I guess she used that particular situation. But otherwise, you might enjoy this one. It's a keeper. I'm going to be keeping it. So when she finally works out that it is the music, she wants to find out the history of the music. She goes back to Rome. She tries to find the history, and that's when she comes across the history of the Jews in Italy during the time of World War II, because these were Jews in Italy, and they were not treated well. They were ostracised from society, as you can well imagine. So that was pretty good. So, and in Italy, there Juliet uncovers the heartbreaking, long-buried tale of tragedy and devastation, a discovery that puts her in a serious danger. Some people will do anything in their power to keep the truth silent, whatever the cost. There is a link for the piece of music that Tess actually composed herself. Here it is here. So if you wanted to listen to that piece of music, you can pause on this to find out the information. I have not yet listened to it, but I might do that. So that might be interesting. You might enjoy that one. Okay, the second book that I read, or the third book I read, is from the first in the series of the Women's Murder Club. This is the first in the series. It's a James Patterson book, but it's written by, where is she? What's her name? She hasn't got her name on this one. She writes under James Patterson. No wonder he can write so many stories, because he has lots of ghostwriters. A lot of people write under his name. Maxine Patro. So it's written by Maxine Patro. It's not in here on the front of the cover, which is rather disappointing, because James Patterson didn't write it, and Maxine Patro wrote it, and she wrote up to 17, 19 in the series, I think. I've got a few of them. It was... Oh, I forgot to tell you when. Oh, I'll do that in a minute. This is the first to die. It was mentioned in 2001. So it's the first in the series. I liked it. As with most James Pattersons, there's always violence and there's always a murder, and the murder can be grisly. This is none less grisly. The violence, yeah, it wasn't all that pleasant to read, but it wasn't as bad as some of James Patterson's books, because this is written by Maxine. It might not have been so violent. The honeymoon murders. Bride and grooms are murdered on their honeymoon, and Lindsay Boxer is the homicide inspector in San Francisco, and she teams up with a coroner named Claire Washburn, a journalist named Cindy Thomas, and an attorney named Jill Bernhardt, and together they form the Women's Murder Club. So as you see, there's quite a few, up to 19, I do believe. It was quite good. There's one particular scene in it between the suspect and his wife, which was not pleasant. So it speaks of sexual violence against women. So it wasn't very pleasant, but it was necessary in the plot to define the suspect. So it was necessary, but it wasn't nice. And the twist was interesting. The twist ending was interesting, but one part of the last few pages were a bit rushed, I think. That could have been drawn out a little bit more. But otherwise, for the first instalment, it was quite good. So I do have a few more to follow through with that, but I'm not going to be reading that one next. So the first to die, that was quite interesting. This one took me by surprise. I loved it. It was really, really good. I started it in October, but didn't finish it until the 1st of November, so I snuck it in. So it's a most unusual and delightful book by Deborah Install, A Robot in the Garden. It's all about Ben and his robot and the relationship that develops between the two of them. Now, Ben and his wife Amy live in the house that was left to him by his parents who died in an accident. So he inherits the house and all of their money, and he and Amy live together. Amy is a barrister, and Ben doesn't do anything. He was training to be a vet, but then his parents died, and all that fell by the wayside. Then one day when he was really busy doing nothing, Amy comes and tells him there's a robot in the garden. Yeah. So it's a story of a unique friendship and how one man opens his heart to a past he did not want and a future he cannot lose. Yeah. Amy wants children, Ben doesn't. He doesn't even want a job. And he finds the robot, and his name is Tang. He's find out his robot is Tang. Tang can see, he can hear, he can talk, he can feel, just like a sentient robot. And Ben finds out that Tang is broken, and he has to go and find the man or the woman, whoever it was that made Tang, and to help fix him. So they go on a bit of a trip around the world virtually to find out how to fix Tang. And meanwhile, Amy leaves him, but I won't tell you what happens in the end. On the trip, Ben discovers himself, he finds himself, and Tang reveals his secrets bit by bit. And it's a really beautiful story. I really enjoyed it, and I was quite surprised that I would. But I took a chance on it because it's only out for $1 or something. So I took a chance on it, and this one was printed in 2015. It's Deborah's first book. Oops, sorry. I'm going to try and find more if she has written some more. See if I can find any more books of hers. But it was really quite good. I enjoyed it. And you might do too. So, A Robot in the Garden. The first to die. And Playing with Fire and Taking the Titanic. Playing with Fire was printed in 2015, but again there might be some triggers in that book, but otherwise it was quite okay. No autopsies, thank goodness for that. Because when she does an autopsy, she really does an autopsy because she is a surgeon. But anyway, so that's what the books I read in October. So hopefully that was enjoyable for you, and until next time, so many blessings.